Hey everyone, welcome to Relatively Refined and welcome back if you're already a subscriber. Today's video is a garden tour. I'm going to start with my vegetable garden, move on to my flower garden, and then onto some container gardening that I'm doing. This is a late spring tour, so not everything is in full bloom, but you'll get a sense most things are coming up by now, and everything will begin to fill in as the summer goes along. The first tour is the vegetable garden, and because we are all about making things beautiful on a budget, I do want to share with you a couple things to look out for. The raised beds are made out of salvage roofing metal. You'll see, as you see the video, they're way up off the ground, which is really nice. And the most recent addition to that is a little fence along the top made with a roll of fencing that we picked up at the dump, believe it or not. And we had some little critters, some rabbits that were getting in there, even though they were really high up. So hopefully this will help them keep them away. So let's get started on the first of our late spring garden tours. So here are the two raised beds, and you can see the metal roofing that I was talking about that was salvaged to make these raised beds, along with a couple of buckets that we had. And you can see the new addition, the fencing that my husband made to keep the rabbits out. So the tall thing on the end there is garlic that is actually planted last fall, and that comes up and will be harvested probably in late July. And then I have mostly I use the vegetable garden for salad stuff. So I've got radishes and radicchio, Swiss chard, and lots of lettuce. And the most commonly used herbs that I like: basil, dill, and parsley. And I did plant some kale and some peas. And there's a little trellis made from that same fencing. And the second bed has cucumbers and beans and carrots that haven't quite come up yet. I do plant them from seed. And then a good chunk of it is tomatoes. The second tour is the flower garden. And when we moved into this house, our old house had a couple of very large flower gardens. And I made the conscious decision to cut back a little bit on the flower beds and to make them a little more manageable. We did put these flower beds around the stone wall, and the stones actually came from my parents' house. They lived down the street before they moved to Florida. And when they were kind of downsizing their gardens, they had a lot of beautiful gardens too. All their gardens were surrounded by stones, and they started to, one by one, get rid of some of those gardens just to make it a little easier to maintain. And the rocks sat in a pile. And then when they sold the house, my son and his friend and my husband were able to go down and gather all of the stones and bring them up here to our house, where they sat for a couple of years until we were ready to begin the stone wall. The other thing I want to point out to you is and I will point out when we have the tour, some of the larger shrubs or bushes I actually got at tag sales. So be on the lookout for sometimes people will have little plantings at tag sales. And one was a lilac and it's doing beautifully now. And the other is a forsythia. So let me take you on that tour. So here's the garden along the stone wall. You can see the little squirrel. I picked up a couple of those at a yard sale a couple of summers ago. I have some ranunculus that I bought as a fundraiser, and they're starting to come up, along with the gladiolas that I bought a big bag of them, and they come up every year, although you do have to dig them up in the fall. And this beautiful peach iris looks so beautiful against the stones. And that's one of the few spring flowers that I have. That's usually the first to bloom. Some coreopsis and some allium bulbs, which you don't have to pull up every year, so they will just come up. The larger one is new. I've not had those, so that will be fun to see when that blossoms. Different colors. There's pinks. There will be pinks and yellows. There's some phlox and some lilies and some geranium. And the tall purple here is just about to bloom. And this is coming from the other side. I had a Russian sage that I think we had a hard frost late, and I think it might have been too much for that plant. Some yarrow and all of those things that look like sticks will be the bulbs, the gladiola bulbs. And there's some more of the purple. So I tried to balance the color on either side because it's like a big horseshoe. And some rudbeckia and daisies that will come out a little bit later. The garden is probably 3 years old, so the plants are not huge. But they're pretty established by now, and I will only have to replace the ones that don't make it. And I think this year it's only that Russian sage, although I'm going to leave it and see if it doesn't bounce back. The little statue was a gift to me from my mother-in-law probably 25 years ago. So here's the back side of the garden, and you can see the 3 bushes that I was talking about that I got at 2 of them at a tag sale. The first one, it was just a tiny little thing when I got it, and it's this very cool lilac that blooms later in the season. And the middle is a rose of Sharon that is just very late coming out. So hopefully it will still come out, but it's a little bit late. And then the forsythia. And finally, for the container gardening, you know by now, I have a thing for urns. So most of the containers are urns, many of which were purchased either through marketplace or tag sales or estate sales. I think there may be 2 urns that I will point out that I actually bought from Smith & Hawken probably 25 years ago, and I've had them for a long time. Everything else is pre-loved, and I picked up through thrifting in some way. So let me share that video with you. So these are one of the urns that I bought probably 20 years ago from Smith & Hawken. I've had them for a long time, and the plants look small in them right now, but they will grow and just drape over these beautiful, heavy cast iron urns. These I picked up at a tag sale, and they were free. And there was a pair of them. I love the handles with the person on it. And again, I went with pinks and corals in these planters this year. I change it up from year to year. This big urn was also from a tag sale. I paid $50 for it, and it's sitting on our marble, what probably was an old well at our house. We'll see how that plant does. I'm not quite sure. These were from the marketplace, Facebook Marketplace, and I got a pair of those. And I have them flanking the entrance to the back entrance to the house with just some geraniums in them. I got the geraniums early this year, and I think I got them too early. And we did have some cold weather, so they're looking a little discolored, but I'm hoping they will survive. There they are, along with a couple of hydrangea bushes on either side of the steps. And in the front, on either side of those beautiful marble steps, those big, heavy green urns were also, believe it or not, from a tag sale. And I have geraniums in there. These were just I buy like a hanging basket and I put them in there. And along the front, I just have some bushes and some daylilies, and that is a Rose of Sharon tree, also late to be blooming. But when it does, it has spectacular pink blossoms, tons of them. So there's a look at the front. In front of the porch are hydrangeas. I hope you enjoyed this video. It's fun, the late spring gardening here, to see what comes up. Every year, I think, oh my gosh, nothing's going to survive the harsh winter that we had, and it always does. And it will fill in as the summer goes along and the color will start to come out. I don't have a lot of color in the late spring, but it's enough to get excited about. As for thrifting, I do encourage you to go to plant sales and split some plants with friends to try to get more. You don't have to spend a lot of money. Perennials are expensive. They can be upwards of $15, $20 per plant. There are inexpensive ways to start your garden. And I would encourage you to do that. If you do, though, just make sure that there's nothing invasive in there. Sometimes there's a weed that can get stuck when you dig up the plant and split it, and that can be a real pain for your own garden. The containers, I also encourage you to be on the lookout for those. You never know. Sometimes there are some really beautiful ones that pop up at yard sales or estate sales or even in thrift stores. I hardly spend any money at all on these, and I'm still looking. I still continue to look to this day for urns, and I gather them, I buy them whenever I see them. Whether or not I fill them all in any particular year, that's to be determined. So those are just some of the ways that you can start to build your outdoor spaces beautiful on a budget. So thank you for coming along with the tour. Again, if you haven't subscribed, please do. You've heard my sister Paula say that we have a goal to try to get to 5,000 subscribers before the end of the summer. And we are way more than halfway there. So any little bit helps, and we would really appreciate it. And until next time, we'll see you later.
Welcome to Relatively Refines, where we share our viewers' thrifted treasures. Today's treasure comes from our viewer Paula, who lives in Adelaide, South Australia. She found this beautiful painting at a local thrift shop in Australia for $25. And as you can see in this photo, it is enhanced by shells. She loved the painting, but was not crazy about the matte, so her friend reframed it for her in a lighter colored matte and frame, and it looks fantastic. Thank you so much, Paula, for sharing this with us. It is beautiful. If you would like us to share one of your thrifted treasures, send an email to the address on the screen with a picture and a little description, and we will be happy to feature it in an upcoming video. All right, everybody, take care, and we'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.